My name is Erin Shaw. I am a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. I am originally from Southeast Oklahoma, and I currently live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I am a professor of visual arts at John Brown University. So I'm going to talk about this piece, Beneath the Ancient Sea. And this piece what I painted after a trip to the Chickasaw homelands, which is in Tupelo, Mississippi. That would be the area that we would that the Chickasaw people were originally removed from into what's now Indian Territory, Oklahoma. And when I went on this trip to the homelands, we were taking a tour of an area, and the ground was covered with these marine shells. And I remember asking the anthropologist that I was with, are these shells? I was kind of confused by it because instead of grass, it was just everywhere you could see was marine shells. And he looked at me and he said, yeah. And I was like, what's the deal with this? This is baffling. And he said, this is the floor of the bed of an ancient sea. And was like one of those moments where I felt really in my present time connected to this ancient time where my ancestors would have been alive and been living in our homeland. And I took one of the shells with me, and it just sort of sat in my studio, and that story just stuck with me. It was like this object that connected me in my present time to a time that I sort of have imagined or, longed for or hoped for, but I didn't really always understand. And so that was the inspiration. I knew there would be some sort of work that came out of that. And so I have a belief that there is a stream of stories, and if you know where the location is of the stream of stories, you can sit along the edge of it and you can dip your hand into the stream and you can pull out any kind of story that you need. And I was just one day in my studio, and I just felt like this story just came to me about this ancient sea. And these birds, you'll see in some of the middle panels, these birds are pulling threads out from beneath the shallow sea, and they're weaving these threads together. And I sort of came to a place of feeling like it was a creation story of how the birds were created. Birds are really important to me in my work. I use a lot of birds, their symbolism and meaning. I feel like birds are messengers, and they're always bringing us messages if we're listening. And so I consider this a creation story of how how birds were created. And I have a really great friend of mine. This is not a traditional, it's not a story that you would find in books. But I have a really great friend of mine who is a Native American scholar. And I sort of had this feeling like, is this okay for me to be creating this story? And I remember she looked at me and she said, you're Chickasaw. And any story you tell is a Chickasaw story. And much of my work does center around stories and this idea that we are a resilient people that are present today, and that our stories have to evolve because we are evolving. Our life has evolved, our context has evolved, and stories serve us, as humanity, stories serve us, and I think they're especially important to Native people. And this idea that I can actually contribute to the stories by creating, and it felt like great freedom for somebody that I really looked up to say, if you tell it, it is a Chickasaw story. So this is Beneath the Ancient Sea, and it's here at the Briscoe Museum